Okay, let's start. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about bridges and switches. I've talked about this in the past a little bit to open people's minds to the idea that we have kind of these moments that happen in the charts where you have bridges and switches, basically. Switches being candles that turn a different color and change the architecture on the chart, and bridges being the piece that connects them all together. So today we'll talk about switches, and then in another lesson we'll talk about the bridges that are created. So bridges and switches are a way of doing high-level comparative analysis. And so whenever we have a trade, we'll just kind of pick a random time frame here with whatever's going on, and we'll try to just kind of improvise this as best as we can. So whenever you have a trade and I'm going to start with a high time frame here. Okay, you know what? Let's rewind it to this candle. This is a good example right here. Whenever you have a candle, and I just always like to go back to that example, that famous clip of me where I said, let the 4-hour create, lose a level, and then let it dump. And then, or, you know, whatever that, however I said that line, let the 4-hour create and then let it dump. You know, whenever we have these 4-hour candles create, whenever you're inside that moment, it's always, okay, well, if we lose this level, obviously that's going to be an amazing thing to be in a short from anywhere, you know, that is actually above this level, because once you lose that level, it becomes, you know, in its own right polarity. And, you know, so halfway during this move here, if you were to go and say like, okay, well, if that's where the level is created, how could you get into a short before that level created? Like this is kind of a common way that we look at charts, and we have a 4-hour level here and we know it's created.
You're
and
not
that's going to
screen
be
sharing, by the way, Con.
Oh, okay, hold on a second here. Thank you for letting me know that, Jude. There we go. That should be better. Yep, everybody can see. Yes, I think so. And then, so yeah, we have this 4-hour level here, and like the point of this would be to get underneath it, because once you hit this level and kind of get underneath it, it's like, okay, well, that's the perfect entry for a short, right? And then you ladder down, et cetera, et cetera. So you'd go inside this candle and you would say, you know, how could you get into that before? Because you have the 4-hour level there, so it's like, you know, going to create that as polarity, and it's not going to want to break under this level because it's going to continuously hold this level, right? So then you start going down into time frames and, you know, working on markup, you know, time frame down. You've got an hourly here. Then, you know, you go to your 15 and you say, okay, well, there's no 15-minute level there. It would be here, and you can go into your 5, and you'll just constantly see this trail of lower levels that give you, you know, delete this hourly because it's a little bit of a better entry. And you constantly see these levels where you would get perfect entry. And if, you know, part of that range holds, which would be this origin level right here, trying to hold its move, and you'll often see timeframes connected like this. Like if you were to try to hold a 5-minute level, it would likely be off a 5-minute origin. So if there was a 15-minute origin here, or say an hourly origin here, you'd likely see that it would be an hourly hold level that holds you, because it's just going to take that much time to break over it. Kind of almost in a way common sense, as if this was an hourly level, it'll take so much more to break through that level. So you're going to be able to create hourly hold levels. If it's just a 5-minute origin, like what we see here, then you only have that kind of 5-minute time specter to go. Maybe you can find a 15, but typically it's going to be a shared time frame. Like 5-minute origin is going to create a 5-minute hold level against polarity. And, you know, kind of in a way by common sense, because if you have a 5-minute hold level, it's going to need to hold over top of this only for a 5-minute candle, right? So, you know, you have an origin here, you need a 5-minute hold level to break over top of it, therefore killing the origin. You're not going to get a lot of time spent over top of this level, so you are going to have a lot of smaller candles. Had this been an hourly level, right? Had this been an hourly origin, then what you would do is you would see a lot more time, because you could spend more time over top of this level, and then you could come back below it, and that would create, you know, kind of like an hourly hold level here. So, you know, in this example and scenario, we have a 5-minute hold level, create off 5-minute origin. Very, very straightforward. Your origin levels typically give you your ladder points, and then you're working against polarity. So this very much becomes a switch in the trade. You know, in this current moment, what you'd be doing, and we're just going to use this, you'd be saying, you know, you need to get over top of this hold level, and so far that journey is, you know, being completed. You have your 4-hour level, and you're trying to break above it. You have the 4-hour level that you're trying to break below, and then you have whatever entry you would get that would hold you down on the move. And then likely again on that other side, the same thing. You'd have that same likely entry on a 5-minute level here. So you'd have this one right here, and that's going to give you kind of your perfect short against long. And then you get into this situation where you have like this mirror, this Pandora's box in between two hold levels, or 2 points of polarity, a 4-hour moving up or a 4-hour moving down. a origin here. On this side, you'd have sometimes an origin on this side. I don't know if we're going to have one here in this trade here, but let's take a look, see what we have. You have an hourly here. That's fine. Yep, you have an hourly there. I don't think you're going to have any 4 hours ever there. No, it's not possible. Any 15 minutes before that? No, this is still an hourly. So let's take the color changer off that. And yeah, that's going to be where your first kind of origin starts. So this kind of completes and now fills in your +1 -1 scenario, which if you're going to lose a 4-hour level, it's going to be because you cannot hold this hourly. So you now have like a lot more pieces being filled in here. You have a +1 -1 on this hourly against the 4. So if it does lose this level, obviously that's the loss of the 4-hour. If it bounces off this 5 and creates that Pandora's box, then you're going to have very much that. So that paints in a lot of those pictures of like what's happening architecture wise on this move. But the switch in this move, now we're not talking about the bridge today, but the actual switch in this move, so like bridges and switches, the switch is going to be when you either gain this part of the move, and that's going to create a switch in the trade. So a switch being that targets will change. So in this moment, the bridge and the switch, what it's going to do is the switch changes your targets up top. So that's the really interesting thing about switches and bridges, is that when you have a switch like this or like this, it changes your targets up on the other side of the chart. So this is really interesting when you start comparing the analysis of charts. Maybe we'll just do this on an hourly chart here, right? Okay, and so that's fine. We'll do this on an hourly. Let's just go kind of one candle at a time. Obviously, the loss of that level happens, and that's where you lose that level right there. That 4 hours loss right there. I don't even know if you've gotten it yet, but at this point, this is now a switch. Obviously, this becomes a great hold level to get in on the future, right? Instead of your target being somewhere up here, maybe it was in this moment. You rewind one candle and you're just seeing the 4-hour candle. Maybe in that moment, your target would have been, well, you already hit this origin here. So what would our target have been? Your hourly is already getting hit here. So then you're kind of at a point where you need to see polarity in the move, because you've kind of built this archetype. You have daily trend. You have your hourly hold here that was held backside. You also combo to the front side right here, which is fine. You hit that front side, you made daily trend. Once you're getting below this, your trend is now going to be target. Had you stayed above this hold level, let's go back and zoom in here. Had you stayed above your hold level there on the 4-hour, like had you stayed above this, your target's going to completely change. And now you're going to be going after the next part of the move that holds the move down. So interestingly enough, had this level here, rewind back one candle like this, in this moment it looks like we're gaining the move, and then you're laddering against it. Your targets would have been this 4-hour, possibly the origin, but I think that's going to tell you something different what your targets are here. If you hit this, you're laddering down long term, and then possibly had this daily been set at that point? That would be my first question here. This daily wasn't actually technically set, because you could still make another yellow candle up. So okay, so in this moment, actually what you'd be doing here is you'd be saying, all right, well, we haven't seen the top of our daily trend, so this would actually just change where this goes. So you actually wouldn't be cycling a trend yet. So you actually wouldn't be having distribution, cycling a trend. So it kind of uncaps your targets. So I think you can immediately take this off. You can take this off. You could take this off. You could take this off. You could take this off. And you would be using this as target. So in this moment, had you gained, oopsies, we just want to delete this one. Okay, guys, we got to zoom in. All right, so we delete this. Had you gained that level, I think your target is very clear. It becomes this. You set your daily trend. That goes here. And that's the switch in the move. Like this blue candle acts as the switch. So that's what this trade would have looked like. Fast forward one candle, all of a sudden you're in a completely different scenario. Those targets, let's just actually rewind this so we don't have to redraw our levels. Those targets actually become very much like your front side here. I don't really ever think you're going for this. I don't at this point. Let's see how. Do we actually get a 1-day candle here? Let's take a look. We do. We get a blue candle close there. So that's really important, because now it changed the architecture of the completely, because instead of setting our trend, what we're doing is that we're now trying to break trend and create a cycle. So once the beginning of moving up in this trade now is that you have your daily trend set, you would break that cycle, you would start going against this level, and you'd be laddering your target. So you ladder this target, you ladder that target, you ladder this target, and it creates a trend cycle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and every time you're laddering a target, all you're doing. But that can't happen unless this level is set. And that switch can't happen unless you actually create a blue daily candle. So unless you actually have a pullback candle that creates a close. So very much in this trade, when you rewind it back to this moment here, the second you get under this level, you create that switch in the trade. Like that switch changes all your targets up top and everything that this trade stands for, right? Like not everything it stands for, but it changes all your targets. So in this moment, we can just hit play here. Oh, it was too far. In this moment, oh, that's fine. It caught up. That doesn't really matter. In this moment, when you lost this level, now trend becomes your target because this is already set as a daily trend. You have had your pullback. If this trend continues to hold, it's now looking at distribution. So it is very much, instead of cycling the move or trying to set up trend becomes your target, and that becomes the starting of the break of the move up, right? Because you've created your daily trend. That's your -1 off your weekly. You are now cycling the move. So once you break over top of this trend, what's going to happen is you are going to start to create that cycle against the move. And again, you're just going to create your 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 until you follow whatever local trend brought you there, and until you completely crush up and break through the range. So that 4-hour candle becoming a bridge and switch moment changes your targets up top. And that's the really important part of all of this, is that the bridge and the switch, they change targets. So this is comparative analysis at a higher level. You have a candle, it creates, and we'll do another example here. You have a candle, it creates, whenever something changes on the chart, like the word chart architecture and comparative analysis, a more refined version of that, or kind of compounding on top of that knowledge, would be bridges and switches, because it's the realization that every time you create a candle, things change, which in a way is kind of common sense, because like if we had a 4-hour, if we had a 4-hour level rate here, right? Just rewind even one candle. If you had a 4-hour level here, right, and you lost this level, like what are you expecting to happen? You lose this level and you get pinched between polarity and trend for 5%. Like that doesn't make sense. Like that's not going to happen, right? Like you're not going to be pinched between two levels for, whatever this measurement is. It's nothing. It's like what, 0.6%, and then what you're expecting to stay there, like that just doesn't make sense, right? So this 4-hour level, gaining or losing, becomes a pretty important moment, because it's the bridge and the switch to the move. So once this holds, right, or once it breaks down, you completely lose the move. Move past that. Once this holds, and even now you're breaking up way beyond this thing. Let's see if the trend can hold it. Not really important for our example right now, but that's fine. Once this holds, then you have your hold level here, and the architecture of the move changed, and now this could be potentially cycling up. You've still got a few other points here that can hold this move down. Like you have ladder points here. Are there going to be floating levels? Are you going to break over top of this, which means the inside of this range will hold you? So, if the second you break over that, back testing this level, well, you could even go different time frame here, but that's fine. Long term, that might just be the next hold level that you hit. Let's start deleting some of these other levels, clear it up. This one, not important. None of these are important at the moment. None of those are important. That weekly, fine. You break over this or even this, that's, showing you that your range is here, which could potentially just be the altering of your trend right here, or even the creation of this trend here to support the move long term, right? So that's a moment where that switch that happens completely changes your targets up top. Now you'd be looking to either ladder off of this, so not hitting this origin. I think exactly what it's doing right now by not hitting the origin, right? And that's one target. Your next target, so first target would be like this, kind of like just, again, either laddering down off of it or hitting it perfectly. Just anything to stay below this so that the ladder can continue moving down. If you start to move up and above this right here, then this becomes your floating level. And then, when you drop, this becomes the move that has to hold. If this doesn't hold, then your floating level is polarity, right? Like your floating level becomes polarity the moment you get above this. And that's a switch to this level. So if you were to define this level here like this, and you would say, okay, dashed lines equal polarity on my chart. So if you mark up your chart and dashed lines are polarity, that will become polarity the second you go over this. And this is the switch for that, right? But that can't be the switch until you get over top of this. Right now, it's just, let's see if the daily trend can hold, et cetera, et cetera. So like bridges and switches, they're very interesting because whenever something changes on the chart, that's comparative analysis and how you describe it. That would be like, how do you see what's happening comparatively in the charts? Switches. And switches show you those moments. Like even right now, if you were to lose this level here, Let's just make this back to normal. We're expecting this to be polarity as long as we can get over top of this, because that creates that as a float. The float will hold almost every single time. If the float doesn't hold, the move is completely collapsed. So in and itself is polarity because it pretty much has to hold. If you don't ladder above that, then your target is kind of here. Like you look for a short to break this move at that point. You're not looking to re-long. Like almost as if you got here, the second you get over this, you're like, oh, automatic, I need to long this. If you start moving down against this stuff locally, you're trying to gain this, and this becomes polarity in the move, and this just becomes nothing. Like I don't even know if I would long there. I would probably long this level at that point because I know that this is going to be polarity instead of this. So it changes your target based on how high this wick goes. Again, over top of here, polarity is here. Underneath these wicks, polarity becomes here. So in either scenario where you're saying, I want to long, your long target changes based on how high this goes. And that's the switch of polarity from here to here. So comparatively, we always have these bridges and switches that depending on where your target goes, that's exactly where you need to see like your adjustments happening, right? If you are supposed to go to a 15-minute target and you hit an hourly instead, that's going to have a very profound effect. Almost imagine there's like all these crazy trading bots and they only have, not that trading bots work, but imagine that somebody had programmed this into a script and you delete all these levels and you know, right now in this moment, the long is here. And like, you know, so whatever, big institutions, trading bots at the highest level, like whatever it is, whatever, you know, even the best traders in the world, this becomes a long target. The second you go here, it's like, oh, delete, change, this goes here, change. And then it's like, it's altering based on where you go, should constantly and always alter what your targets are. So starting to work on the justifications of where our targets, like you can't just say like, here's a hold level. This is a very generalized way to look at trades. Here's a hold level. Here's the hold level in the range. I think that's a good trade because it's a clean 4 hour. That's not enough. These targets change based on what happens here. So comparatively, you have to start working through these scenarios and saying, hey, and you have all the tools, we already know about floating levels. If we go here, we have to say comparatively, now we need to start looking at this as our level, because that's going to come back here. If you were to go below that, again, you have to make that adjustment and say, oh, we only went to here. That's an extension of this part of the move. Maybe it just cycles the interior piece to here. Okay, all of a sudden, you know, you're changing your target completely, right? Like you're changing it to this because this then becomes polarity in the move. Are you going to gain this 4 hour or are you going to break it down? Right? So you always need to take all of your TA and CA at the highest level, understand what targets are being hit. When do you use polarity in a switch? When do you use a reverse level in a switch? Like which level becomes correct? And then you're always saying like, okay, well, here's like a backside example, right? Here's hourly there. Do you have the hourly even further back right here? That's hourly there. Yeah, this can't be it because it breaks there. So you have, that's not polarity. This one is undoubtedly, certainly polarity. Let's see, you know, do we have something else further back? No, not really, because this is just a whole level. That's not there. That's broken there. That's nothing. That's here. That's fine, but does that interfere with our hourly? No, actually it does, because the hourly's right here. And so like this becomes that part of the move. So then bridges and switch wise, if you ladder this piece of the move, this is going to be polarity. So your polarity is going to be more transparent, right? Like if you're going to break over top of this, and that's just like kind of going down that rabbit hole. Now you're saying, okay, I hit this level, I laddered down, like where's polarity in this move? It very clearly becomes the backside level, because if this holds, it's telling you that you're going to create the float. So this holding creates that switch for that 4 hour. So that level holding there, if this comes down and holds, this is your next target, right? So you're going to go here, you're going to create the float. This now becomes polarity. This buy sets down to down here. And then that's where you see like that bridge and switch based on what happens on the backside of a level, based on what's happening currently, your polarity is much more transparent. So almost as if, you know, the easier the move becomes, because, oh, look, it's just a ladder. Okay, easy. The shorter that distance between where you went and polarity will exist. And this is kind of a common occurrence. And the more extreme targets you go to, the more extreme that polarity is going to be as well. And so when things are very obvious, oh, we just laddered the move to here, to here, to here, that's when you're using something like a backside. And then so there's all these different cues for like, when do you use a reverse? When do you use a 4-hour inverse? When do you use a daily inverse? And that's all bridges and switches deprived and or created from bridges and switches. Let's just put it that way. It's all created from bridges and switches. So like when you're picking targets, your bridge and switch will tell you, am I supposed to go backside? Am I supposed to go reverse? Am I supposed to go to hold level? Am I supposed to go to polarity? Like, where does that exist, right? Like, should I go to the 4-hour inverse? Should I go to trend? When do I use trend? Like, there's the switch will always tell you. And then the bridge is the second half of that, like bridges and switches. The bridge is what tells you where it's going, and the switch is starting to adjust that comparative analysis. So today we just focus on switches because that's kind of its whole own unique set of standards. Like the switch goes here, switch goes there. You know, what happens, what levels you gain, what levels you lose. But then again, the bridge is what explains which level to use. So we did very minor amount of bridge work in this video and more of switch work to explain where switches exist, how they are comparative analysis wise, and, you know, kind of what they do for us.